Former CLICO boss Leroy Parris will know tomorrow if he'll get back his millions frozen by a high court. That's our top story in our Barbados Today evening news update for Thursday, March the 15th. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. The 3-year wait is over for former CLICO boss Leroy Parris, whose $4.5 million in assets were frozen by a local high court back in February 2015. Tomorrow, Parris will know whether or not the money belonging to he and his private company, Brandley Consulting Services, will be given back, remain frozen, or otherwise disposed of. The decision will be handed down by the local Court of Appeal after Parris had earlier challenged the High Court judgment to freeze his assets in the first place. This all coincided with the collapse of CLICO, the insurance firm which Parris managed. The Fair Trading Commission has launched investigations into the poultry, telecommunications, and hospitality industries in an effort to determine if there are anti-competitive practices. Now, Director of Fair Competition, Antonia Thompson, told the FTC's annual training program at the Accra Beach Hotel this morning that consumers would be given a chance in the coming weeks to share their views on some areas, including pricing and quality.
We do market studies, and this time we're doing, so these market studies, we go into markets and we try to find out what's happening in the market. Is there anything stopping or inhibiting competition? And I know at this time we're currently engaged in 3 studies. One is in the poultry sector, one is in the telecommunications sector, and one is in the hospitality sector. And in 2 of those instances, we're liaising with our consumer protection. That's in the hospitality and in the telecommunications sector. We're actually liaising with our consumer protection division, working on those 2 studies. And we are really and truly driving the poultry study from internally within the competition division.
In a separate interview, Thompson warned that the time for leniency was over with regards to price fixing by shipping agents and anti-competitive practices by others. He said businesses have been exposed to anti-competitive laws for about 15 years now.
We want to make sure that persons understand that, the business persons understand that. And that's why we've been doing this over and over and over, because we know that it is something that needs to be out there. We also go to businesses and speak to them occasionally. And so this is something that we want to do to make sure that persons are aware of what is happening, because in my view, I can't speak on behalf of what the commissioners may think, but in my view, the time for leniency in that regard may have passed. We're 15 years now, so every company that's operating should really know exactly what the legislation is with respect to competition law in Barbados.
The Barbados government has put employers on notice regarding the implementation of the various pieces of legislation enacted by Parliament. Minister of Labour, Dr. Esther Bayasuku, informed stakeholders at a Labour Management Relations seminar at Warren's office complex this morning that the passing of legislation alone would not improve the working environment.
It is recognized that changing legislation alone will not be the silver bullet in addressing issues in the workplace. We have certainly realized that with all of this new legislation, things don't automatically change for the better. There is the legislation, but we still have to go in and make sure that folks are sensitized and that they're applying the legislation correctly. This means that partnerships, cooperation, and of course dialogue are critical to the process. Workplaces must also be committed to self-regulation. It is through these principles of social dialogue and consensus building that the decent work agenda, as promoted by the International Labour Organization and fully endorsed and advanced by Barbados, will be realized.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Welcome back with news from the region now. Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says TNT is losing $2 billion in energy taxes and it's time for a fairer share. At the same time, Rowley says he has no plans for the country to go to the International Monetary Fund.
Well, when we reach the point where we bring up gas, produce it, sell it in a market where profits are being made, and the return is negative, meaning you get nothing, meaning that you'll have to pay the person to take it from you, something is radically wrong.
And on the international scene, there is news of a tragic incident in Florida where a bridge has collapsed. We now join Euronews for more on this developing story.
Florida's Highway Patrol says several people have been killed after a pedestrian bridge collapsed at Miami's Florida International University. Local news footage showed at least 3 cars crushed under the bridge. Emergency crews appeared to be trying to work their way through a hole in the top of the bridge. Firefighters were on the scene and medics were treating injured people. The Miami Herald newspaper reported that the bridge was installed on Saturday morning.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic evening.